Okay, and we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Desert Farmer Podcast. This is episode 76. 76. That's like the gas station 76. Isn't it 76?
Okay.
I think it's 76. Anyways, it's been a couple weeks since we've been here in front of you guys. Had a lot of stuff going on here on the farm. I'll share a couple of those things with you guys here and probably next weekend as well. But before we get to that, we want to take care of a couple of housekeeping notes. So housekeeping note number one is what, sweetheart?
If you have a question, if you can just write the word question, preferably in caps, before you state your question, just so it stands out and I hopefully don't miss it and can get that answered for you guys.
Yes, Lori will be paying attention to the chat down below, keeping you guys in line and probably interacting with you guys just a bit. But it will help her out if you help us see that you have a question. That way, when we come back to the question and answer period, we can find those and hopefully get it answered as best we can. And then housekeeping note number two is give us a thumbs up. If you enjoy the podcast and the content we bring to you guys, if you give us a thumbs up, it helps us not just today, but going forward with the YouTube algorithms and everything else. It kind of all comes together when you give us a thumbs up, and we'd love to see those. So, okay, we haven't seen you guys for about 2 weeks. So before we get to the topic of the day, kind of give you guys a little bit of a recap, rewind just a little bit here for the last couple of weeks. We had two of our fall events, our two primary events. And I really love the fall season. These back-to-back events are always some of my favorite things to do here on the farm. First one's what?
We had our farm tour. So we had about 100 people that came out and we spent time with them, walked through the property and kind of look and explain what we've done and why, and do some wine tasting at the end. And
I was hoping you're going to remember the wine tasting.
And do some giveaways of some wine bottles.
Yep. So the only way to get Edge of Nowhere farm wine is to be at one of our farm tours, because we do a giveaway. We've been doing that for the last couple of years and it's pretty popular. So we give away, I don't know, depends on kind of how many you allow me to give away, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually it's like 10 or 15 bottles of wine, and we do some taste testing. So this year we had everything that we gave away, everybody got a chance to try ahead of time. And so if you won, you at least had a good chance of getting one that you had tried, or you could try it in advance. So that way you know you're getting a good one, which I don't know. I think you picked good ones anyway, right? Those are some of our favorites.
Yep.
And actually we have a few folks, friends of the farm here, that help us out each time we do some of these events. And Brian and Gayla were here. Brian did some videography. We're going to bring some of that to you guys. He got some great shots too. Going to help us out with some marketing. But he was here with his wife, Gayla, and Gayla's here. She helps you, right? So she knows the farm really well. She was our farm sitter when we went on our cruise earlier this year. So she knows the farm probably better than anybody else besides us. But she was here, and she was in charge of the wine tasting. We got some great shots of her. I should have grabbed them because they're pretty funny.
Yeah.
So, but she was having a good time, and I think everybody really did. So I don't know. We had probably between 80 and 100 people here, would you say? So a pretty good group. And the funny thing about that, our very first farm tour, I want to say was in 2018. Pretty sure it was 2018. Sometime, I think it was the fall of 2018. And we had exactly 6 people that showed up for that event. And 5 of the 6 I knew personally. Like personal friends from church, right? People that we knew. And the one that wasn't there was Jared. And so Jared is the only one that I didn't know. And he came and wanted to talk chickens. So it was pretty cool to have him here, because he was here this
So he was here at the...
Yep. And he won a bottle of wine.
He did, yeah.
He did. So that worked out pretty good too. So that was the first one. Second one was what? What was our second event? We can share with everybody real quick.
We did our fall chicken processing workshop last weekend.
Yes. So we had about 25 to 30 people right around that were here, which is just a perfect size class. It's usually right in that. So usually, 30 or so people, and hands-on workshop. Everybody got a chance to go through the entire process. We walked through every step of bringing in the chicks, showing them our brooder, giving them an idea of timing, because our timing here is so completely different from the rest of the country. So we have some very unique things here that you have to do in order for that to be successful. So we walk them through the entire thing. We talk about the pasture, our rotation process with the chicken tractors. We talk about all those things, and then they get their hands dirty and they actually go through the entire process, butchering the chicken, processing the chicken, and then they take it home. Yep. So they get to take home a pasture chicken with them. And it's great because, we obviously try to pick out some of the better sized chickens. And I think we're pretty consistent. Everything was high 4s, low 5s. And then we had one outlier that was over 6.
Yeah.
Over 6 pounds.
Yeah.
And then we went through, so with that is our 4th season of doing that. So we've actually trained over 100 people how to process a pastured chicken. So that's a pretty cool little kind of bookmark to say, hey, we've done our part, and we've got over 100 people trained here in the valley.
That's pretty cool.
On how to do that. Yeah, pretty neat. So either way, so those were our 2 main events, and we roll into the holiday season at this point. The only major thing still left on the docket for us is turkeys, right? So we have basically pretty much sold out of all of our turkeys. So we always double how many we bring in. We usually have some losses in the brooder. We had none this year. We've lost a total of 2 birds total. So we had a lot more birds than we had pre-sold, but everybody came through, and we've sold all but 4 or 5, right?
I got a waiting list with a couple more people, just wanting to make sure we don't lose any in the last couple weeks.
Right, which is pretty common. So that does happen. But the birds, so a lot of times these birds get so big so fast. We raise the double-breasted white turkeys here, and they grow very quickly. I think we've done a really good job of restricting their feed this time. So if they get too big too fast, they get a lot of leg problems. They can get heart conditions, all kinds of stuff. These look really healthy.
Yeah, they look really good.
Yeah, they look really good. So the biggest challenge now is the toms fight, because they're getting sexually mature. So they're starting to fight. So that is a challenge. We've had to separate a couple of them. So that's kind of what we're, keeping an eye on at this point, is just to make sure that we don't have anybody get seriously injured, because we could lose them if that happens.
Yep.
But the next thing we have is we process our turkeys on Saturday. We don't freeze them. They go on to ice Saturday evening, and then everybody comes and picks up their fresh bird, an actual fresh bird, on Sunday morning. So
this is all the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Before Thanksgiving, yep. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be doing that, and that pretty much wraps up our season. So the only thing we have left on the farm that's extra is all of our market pigs, which go to butcher January and February. So so that's our fall kind of wrap up. And we've got a topic today that I think is going to be an interesting one. Before we do, are there any questions?
Yeah, so what is the latest that you can safely plant a jujube tree in the fall? Is it too late now?
Isn't that funny that somebody asked a question about a jujube, and we have a taste test for you guys today? Not to get sidetracked, I'm going to answer that question. This is the Shaanxi or Shaanxi, however you want to pronounce it, Li jujube. These were okay in the summertime, right? And these are usually ripe in August-ish, July, August. But then it sets another crop, and this one we just picked yesterday, dropped it into the fridge. We're going to try this with you guys today, okay? But back to jujubes. Jujube is a deciduous tree. Deciduous trees can be planted anytime from now through spring. So very common. In fact, we have 2 jujubes on order right now that will be bare root deliveries, usually sometime in January. So if you have a jujube that's potted that you want to put in the ground right now, you probably would be fine as long as you mulch it nice and heavy. It should be losing its leaves. All of our jujubes right now are dropping their leaves. They're the first trees to do so because they don't like 60-degree weather, and that's what we've gotten down into the 50s, and they hate that. So they're going to be dormant here, so you're probably fine to plant it. Or if you're concerned, especially if you think your ground may freeze, I'm not exactly sure where you're at, but if you think your ground may freeze or you can't mulch it nice and heavy, just keep it in a pot and keep it up kind of near the home and plant that here in February or March. So up to you, but if you got a potted one, you probably could do that now, assuming that's what you have, if you have a jujube you're waiting to plant. So anything else?
Thin eggshells help. Picked up egg, broke in my hand.
Yes, so that is a lack of calcium. So we use the oyster shells, and it's a combination of oyster, the ones we find, because we can't find the good old-fashioned oyster shells that we used to.
I know. I need
So-
to figure out where I can find them.
Yeah,
They like those so much better.
They do, and I think it's because they still have that really strong kind of ocean flavor, and they like that. They're drawn to that. But they sell pellets, calcium pellets. We get them at Tractor Supply in like a 30 or 40 pound bag. I don't know. Do you remember how much they cost? Okay.
I just order stuff.
So yeah, but that's your best bet. Now you can also feed them eggshells. We have done that from time to time. Just make sure you've got to bake them first, and you bake them, chop them up real fine, throw the eggshells back out there, and a lot of times they'll eat those, and that'll help increase the calcium content. You didn't tell me whether or not it's a new layer. So if it's a layer if they have not had this problem before, it's without a doubt calcium. If it's a new layer and they're just starting to lay, so if you got your birds here in the spring or late spring and they're just now starting to lay, it could just be that they're a little bit too young. So a lot of times we see that with some of the first eggs, or like in the first crop of eggs, but they're very good at knowing that they need calcium. They have to have enough, and those calcium pellets work just fine. We almost never get that. So we'll get frail egg shells, but not what you're describing. So and that can happen. And again, it's back to the bird. So the bird needs to get enough calcium. The vast majority of our birds always do, but every once in a while we got some. Right now we've still got some that every once in a while we'll get a crack or a chip or something like that in there, and that's usually what it is. So.
Candace said that you can get the old-fashioned oysters from Stockman's Feed on 73rd Avenue in Van Buren, a 50-pound bag, around $22.
Hey, there you go. You got to make that trip. Get a couple bags of them.
I will have to, because I cannot stand the ones from Tractor Supply.
That's what we need, that, because they just do much better on that. I would highly recommend that. So that's a great.
Yeah, if they're like the crushed shells, that's what I prefer. I know we used to get them from the
stock shop.
Yeah, and last couple times I went there, they didn't have them. So
Stockman's. There you go. Hey, it's on this side of town.
Thanks, Candace.
Still.
I'm going.
Thanks, Candace. That was perfect. So, okay, any other questions?
No.
All right, so growing zone. So this came about, we had somebody make a comment on one of the older videos. I don't remember which one it was, but they were concerned that we were not sharing our growing zone and were a little confused. And then they started walking through everything and figured out what our growing zone is, because we make it pretty clear where we're at. But either way, the question was growing zone, and got me thinking a little bit about growing zones and how important the number is and how deceiving it may be. And so I think what I wanted to do was kind of talk a little bit about that. Obviously, we're here in Arizona. Sometimes it's not uncommon for me to make the mistake in the assumption that everybody that is listening or watching us is here in Arizona or a similar climate. That's not always the case. For example, is Daryl here right now?
He is.
Daryl's in Louisiana.
Yeah.
So
he said he's getting down into 30s this week.
Yeah, see, so that's a perfect example. So we've got Daryl here, obviously in a different climate than we are here, probably a different growing zone as well. So obviously when it comes to what we share, the assumption is one thing, but the reality may be another. So what I wanted to do is give you guys a resource today so you can see where to find your growing zone, and then talk a little bit about some of the limitations about growing zones and why we don't really put a lot of emphasis on it here. So I will say we are in Zone 9B. So to clarify, Zone 9B is our official zone here in Whitman. So what I want to share with you guys first, and for those of you who are on the listen only or the audio only, this will only be a brief moment, and Lori can give you guys the actual website, but you guys should be able to see this here. This is the USDA Plant Hardiness Zone map. This is an interactive map. I don't have all of the ability here to kind of do all of the machinations, but essentially you can, hopefully you guys can see this, there's a little drop down, but there's a search arrow here. So you got a shot of the country, you can see the gradations as far as temperatures are concerned, and it's focusing on the lowest possible winter time temperature. So that's what the hardiness zone is all about. It's about that lowest temperature that you're going to reach. So you can type in your zip code here and it will tell you exactly what your hardiness zone is based on zip code. Now, zip code's obviously still a big area. We're going to talk about some of those limitations here in just a minute. But essentially, this map shows you that we have zones in the country anywhere from about zone 12 or so down to about zone 3, I think 2 or 3. I don't think we've got anything in 1. That's probably up in Canada at this point. But this is the USDA hardiness zone map. Can you go to our notes real quick and give them the address for that? I'll have it down in the notes as well so you guys can see that.
I already put it in there.
Oh, did you? Oh, perfect. So Lori's got it in the chat. We also, if you guys are watching this after the fact, we also have this for you in the show notes. So that is the USDA hardiness zone map. So you'll notice that the date on there was 2023. So that was the last time that they updated climate zones for us here, or hardiness zones for us for the USDA. Now, one of the things that I had noticed is typing in a few zip codes. I typed in ours, we're zone 9B, and that the interactive map where you enter that search, it shows you your current zone. It also shows you your prior zone, so what your zone was in 2012. And there have actually been some changes. So now the ones that I saw were changes where the zone was actually going up. Okay, so going from, say, zone 9B to zone 10A. And to clarify, these zones, you have zones 13 down to 1. Zone 13 would be a lowest wintertime temperature of between 60 and 70 degrees. And the A and B is where you fall in that 10-degree range. So the lower you are, you go from, say, a 10A is, let's say it's 60 degrees, or I'm sorry, 65 to 70 degrees. No, 60 to 65 degrees, and zone 10B would be the next step, next 5 degrees up. So when we say we're in zone 9B here in Whitman, we are in the 25 to 30 degree range as far as lowest wintertime temperature. Okay, 25 to 30 degrees for Whitman, Arizona, as of 2023. So that was the first zip code I checked. Second zip code I checked was actually my work zip code. It's right down in central Phoenix. So it's at 23rd Avenue in Grand. If you guys know where, that is literally in the heart of Phoenix. So central Phoenix. I typed in 85009 and they actually had a zone change. So in 2023, their zone changed from 9B to 10A. Big difference. So instead of their lowest temperature being between 25 and 30 degrees, their lowest temperature is between 30 and 35 degrees. Now, if you, I also checked a couple others. I checked Scottsdale, at least the couple that I checked were 9B. I checked Mesa, same thing, it was 9B. So a couple of Eastern Valley zip codes still in that 9B range. So you can see center part of Phoenix is really where that warm up occurred, which makes sense. You have all that concrete jungle there, which insulates the temperature and raises that lowest minimum temperature. I checked you guys down in Tucson. I don't know if we have anybody here from Tucson today, but I typed in a couple of different zip codes in Tucson. Tucson's basically 9B. Excuse me for a second. And so you can see very, very similar as far as lowest wintertime temperature. Again, I need to clarify, the hardiness zone is telling you what your lowest wintertime temperature can be. Now, a couple limitations. So the first one would be microclimate. Your backyard is not necessarily 9B or 10A. You would have to actually measure the wintertime temperatures to find out what your actual backyard zone is. For example, in 2019, and again, we're zone 9B in our zip code. In 2019, our backyard at the old farm hit 20 degrees, 20. That is 9A. So our lowest temperature there was actually in 9A. Here at this farm, since then, we've never gone below high 20s, about 28, 29 degrees. That's as cold as we've gotten, but we've still gotten below 30. So we're definitely still in 9B. We've sat in 9B since we've been here in 2019. So we talk a little bit about some of the plants that you can't or can plant. The hardiness zone is specifying whether or not a tree is going to survive that coldest temperature, okay? So things like tropical trees, we've talked about that here before. You can see why we're not doing tropical trees here. It's a much bigger struggle for us than it would be for somebody in the middle of Phoenix, right? In the middle of Phoenix, you're in zone 10A. You are in tropical tree territory without question. So where we talk about not planting mangoes and not planting bananas and the struggles that we have, you won't necessarily have those challenges sitting smack dab in the middle of Phoenix. Now, that could also be the case for a microclimate in your backyard, right? So you can help the microclimate, maybe make it a little bit warmer by having other trees there. If you've got a lot of concrete, I'm not sure what you're planting if you do, but also things like a wall, right? A block fence or something like that could help to raise that temperature. So there's a few things you can do there, but your basic zone is going to be a little bit different. Now, a couple other things. Just because your temperature in the last 10 years has not been below 30 degrees for everybody here in Arizona, let me tell you right now, it doesn't mean that it won't get down there again. So, and again, back to microclimate, your backyard may still be colder. So without actually testing it, so keeping a thermometer out there that's going to measure that, you won't really know. So a couple other things about some hardiness zones. So we talked a little bit about the reason or the main focus of the hardiness zone, and that's to tell you whether or not a plant can survive your lowest wintertime temperature. What it doesn't tell you is a few things. Number one, how long and how often do you hit that lowest temperature? So do you drop down into that temperature at 8 o'clock at night and for 12 hours you're down at 27, 28 degrees? Are you down that entire time? How warm does it get during the day? That makes a difference as well. So, are you hovering at, 32 or 35 degrees during the day and then dropping down to 27 when the sun goes down and you're staying at that temperature for 12 to 14 hours? Middle of winter, you're getting 14 hours of nighttime, right? So there's no sunlight for 14 hours. So, that's a long time to be down in the upper 20s for a plant or a tree. So the amount of cold can definitely make a difference. So you can still be in that zone, but drastically different from what we are here. So in our 9B, our ground doesn't freeze. Our pipes 2 or 3 inches below the ground don't freeze. Our above ground pipes with very little insulation don't freeze. So we get down to that temperature for about 2 to 3 hours maximum. And then of course, we're right back up into the 50s or 60s pretty consistently with lots of sunlight very early in the morning. So by mid-morning, when we're at those 30-degree temps, we're 50 degrees by the time we hit noon. So we have a much bigger temperature swing up, and then it takes a lot longer for it to cool down. So where you may have trees that can survive a little bit longer here, that may not necessarily be the case if you're in a 9B where you stay in that very, very cold range, especially if your ground is freezing. That's totally different from what we're doing here. So even though you can have a 9B here, there's also 9B in Northern California near San Francisco. Totally different climate, totally different. So a lot more humidity. This does not gauge humidity. So we're very, very dry, which has a tendency to affect how cold affects things. So obviously moisture can be insulating. We have absolutely none of that. We have no moisture, really almost the entire year. It's true also in the wintertime. So we don't have anything like moisture to insulate. Then also different varieties will do different things. So for example, we have plums here on the farm, and our plums they're okay, but they're nothing like the plums that I had in Southern California. 9B areas in Southern California will have these plums that are just beautiful, big, plump plums, again, because the climate itself is still different. So even though we're both the same zone, climate is not the same. And so you can see where there's a lot of limitations on giving you guys our zone, because just because we're 9B doesn't mean that a 9B somewhere else in the country can do the things we do here. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. The only thing it means is a tree that survives down to 20 degrees will survive here, and a tree that survives down to 20 degrees will survive in San Francisco. Okay? So that's really all it's saying. It doesn't mean all those other things that we know. So if you can go to my notes, I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So we talked a little bit about our zone, and we are a 9B here. We're still a 9B as far as the hardiness zone map is concerned, but there are changes. So I would encourage you guys, once you're done here, or maybe you guys are doing it now, go into that zone map, typing in your zone, seeing what you are, and you'll see that it'll tell you whether or not your zone has changed. What else? Talked about Tucson, talked about Phoenix, talked about Scottsdale, right? What else are on my notes there? I can't read it.
Signifies plant hardiness, not necessarily same growing conditions, chill hour variance.
Oh, that's right. I'm glad you mentioned that. So last note, one of the things that with our deciduous trees require chill hours. And the hardiness zone does not say anything about chill hours. In fact, I had mentioned it a little bit in how long and how quickly you get down into these cold temperatures. Now, your chill hours are between 32-ish degrees and 45 degrees. These are all Fahrenheit, by the way. Everything I've been saying has been Fahrenheit, not Celsius. So about 30 to 32 degrees to 45 degrees is your chill hours. That is how much time in that temperature range your deciduous trees need in order for them to to signal that they need to flower and set fruit. So that there's been a lot of debate as to whether or not that really makes a difference. But I can tell you that the years that we have colder and longer winters where there's much more time in that 32 to 45 degree range, our apple trees, our peaches, all of those trees have a tendency to flower more consistently and fruit more consistently. So it doesn't have anything to do with chill hours. So a 9B, again, like say a 9B in San Francisco and a 9B here, chill hours can be vastly different. So that can definitely make a difference for you there. And I had one other thing that just took off on me. So, but either way, so that is something that you want to keep in mind as far as another limitation here. It will not tell you chill hours. So you can estimate chill hours, right, based on either keeping track of your temperatures outside or just I don't know. At least for me, I'm always looking at the temperature and seeing when we hit that 45 degree mark. And once we hit 45 degrees and are below that, the timer goes in my mind. And so each day and weekly, I'm kind of doing a small calculation like, okay, we got about 40 or 50 hours of chill this week. And then I can estimate through that winter time frame about how many we have. So I track it not real consistently, but I do have a general idea of how many we're getting. So are we getting 200 or are we getting 500 or 600? And again, those years where we hit 500 or 600 chill hours, much more consistent flowering and fruiting in all of our deciduous trees that require it. So, and then back to that debate on chill hours. So there's been some studies that they've done in Southern California where they have not met the chill hour requirements and are still seeing fruit. Mm-hmm. So whether or not that's actually the case, I can't say with absolute certainty, but it does seem to me that the years we get more chill hours, we get more fruit on these trees. And the varieties that require more chill hours, like the piacottum, the only time we've ever gotten fruit was 2 years ago, and that was the longest amount of chill hours that we had. So we got about between 500 and 600 chill hours that year, and it was the only year we've gotten a piacottum. So, and that is a higher chill peach apricot plum hybrid. So there was one other thing. I'll see if I can remember what it was, but I want to make sure I get to questions here if you guys have any. And if not, then we will get to eating the chantilly.
Yeah. So I don't think there was any actual questions.
Wow. You guys are taking it easy. Everybody must be going on vacation.
No, just kidding. There was one here. My father-in-law used for his laying hens I'm not sure what that is, something in ginger.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I'm not sure. I don't know what the something is. So, curcumin. It sounds like curcumin and ginger. Was that were they having like
for chickens, maybe
parasites or something? Or?
Well, we were talking about the eggshells earlier, so I don't know if it had to do with that.
Oh, I'm not familiar of the herbal supplement making a difference. Calcium has been what we found has been what was lacking. So what we went, I think we probably went the first. I don't know how long it took for us to actually start adding calcium.
Oh, I don't know.
It was pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So
it's just because new chicken owners and you hear that you have to, so
yeah,
you do it.
That might be it. That's probably what it was. We pretty much always had them.
Yeah.
And you can always tell when we run out of eggshells because all of a sudden we start getting thin shells. Mm-hmm. So
Bowtie has bottled their first their blackberry wine.
Nice.
So
Congratulations.
It's really strong, but really good.
That's the best kind of wine, isn't it?
Yeah. So they're looking forward to that.
Very cool.
And then just talking about zones and Misco, it's interesting. I don't know if we have such zones in Europe.
Huh. I'm not sure either. I guess I'm
me
so
neither.
used to for us, Misco, I'm not sure. This is put out by the United States Department of Agriculture. So that's who puts ours out. So that is it's a thing the United States has done for I don't know how long. They've got records going back decades. So, and I'm not sure if it's attached to the Farmer's Almanac or what. I would imagine it probably is somewhere. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else around the country. So,
Yeah.
all right. Anything else? Shanxi lead time. Look at that, half an hour in. It's pretty obvious that we're getting towards the holidays. So we get a lot less activity on YouTube, and we got our main crew here. It seems like, which is great. So okay, this is a Shanxi, SHANXI Li. So that is the variety that we're dealing with here. So what size would you say that is? That's
Like a ping pong, maybe golf ball.
yeah, I'm thinking closer to golf. I was thinking golf ball. So
Yeah.
I would say that's about the size of a golf ball, give or take. Maybe like a silver dollar. So about that size. But decent sized jujubes. So jujubes can be a lot smaller than this. We get I guess the Empress G is probably a little bigger than this, would you say? But about the same shape. I know I get them confused
I
sometimes.
do too. I'm thinking of Aunt Admire, which is more oval.
Oblong.
Or, yeah.
So we got Aunt Admire that all set this fall. So put on a second crop here at the end of summer. So we had Aunt Admire, we had the Empress G, this is the Shanxi Li, we had the Lang. The Lang also did. The Lang was very good. So what? You started
Because I'm not sure if you're going to tell me don't say that yet.
So what we're gonna do? We're gonna try this for you. I want one of the things about this. So this is completely ripe. It's still firm. So one of the things about jujubes is they are sometimes referred to as a Chinese date because they get wrinkly on the tree. And one of the descriptions I've always given everybody is that they taste like a dry apple. So here in the fall, they can still get wrinkly, but this one you can see completely brown, like perfectly all the way around, completely brown, completely ripe, and it's still firm.
Nice.
Right? So this one it's not getting soft. So anyways, let's go ahead and try this. I'm going to get close.
Yeah, I think they taste much better when they're firm versus wrinkly.
Yeah, so I'm going to
Go for it.
give you everybody needs to get close to your speakers here. It's a little ASMR. There you go. Oh. How about that? How about them apples?
This, like, batch or whatever, the ones now taste so much better than the first.
Uh-oh.
They don't seem as dry.
They're not as dry.
Is it because we got so much rain this year?
I can't talk right now with my mouth full.
It's
Guys.
so good.
Wow. Okay. Describe the taste of that for everybody. Come on. We had the farm tour this year. We had some folks that actually tried jujubes for the first time. Gave us their opinion of how that tastes.
And I've always said like a dried apple, which it kind of still does, but it does have more moisture in it than that. But it almost has more of like a honey hint versus like that apple.
I'm glad you
Taste.
said honey because that's what I'm getting. So and we tried. So we had this exact same one just about a month or two ago. So I mean, we didn't get total amnesia as far as what it tasted like a couple months ago, but it was a dry apple. There was really dry. No other way to describe the flavor either. It was a dry apple, which is fine. It's a good, unique flavor. Mm-hmm. That is actually a little sweeter and definitely honey. That's exactly it. I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of the same. Definitely not nearly as dry, but absolutely. There's a touch of honey in here. Okay, I'm sorry, but you're out of luck.
Are you taking the rest of it?
Here, there's a pit in there. You can have the pit.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Wow. So Jujubes, we're going to probably have more content next year on Jujubes because we now have, the only thing we'll have more varieties of is figs, right? And mainly because people have gifted us all these different fig varieties. We've got, 5 or 6 different fig varieties we're going to be planting this winter. So we're going to be finding spots. We'll show you where we're going to be putting all these. But next to figs, the only other tree that we have so many different varieties of, I think there's 7 varieties now, is Jujubes. And the trees are just amazing. Yes, they root and they run like crazy, so you're going to get little Jujube trees popping up everywhere. So that's definitely a challenge and a drawback. But the trees do amazing for us here. They're nice and drought tolerant. They hate the cold. They're already all going to sleep. I mean, most of them, they've lost most of their leaves at this point. But they love the heat. They just thrive during the summertime. They grow like crazy. They produce hundreds of these fruit. So, but one of the things we didn't anticipate doing a U-pick for Jujubes, but we're definitely gonna add that to the docket, especially having all these different varieties, and have folks out for a U-pick on Jujubes. So,
be good.
It's gonna be good. All right, how are we doing? We're gonna finish early today.
So questions, sorry, not related to current topic, but what's the best way to get a plant out of a cement or terracotta pot to put it in the ground without breaking the pot or killing the plant in the process?
So you said cement or terracotta. Those are 2 completely different things.
This is Eric.
Okay, so, Eric, homeboy Eric?
Uh-huh.
So, Eric, we have had, it depends on the size. So we have our concrete pots, very, very heavy. I don't know how heavy they are, but they're very, very heavy. I don't know if you saw them when you were here for the farm tour, but we have 4 of them up at the front of the farm. We've had those. When did we first plant that apple tree in there? 2018? Maybe 2019?
It was the old farm.
Yep. So we've had one of those. It's 6 or 7 years old now. It is exactly the same as the day we got it. It's
what we don't have that tree anymore.
No, the pot.
Oh, the pot. Yes.
So yeah, the pot is the same. So the pot now has a rose in it. Well, it either has a rose or it has your aloe vera. I'm not sure, one of the two. But that has been planted with at least 2 different types of trees. And what we did is we just basically we take the pot, roll it onto its side carefully, and then you can basically pull the tree out. So now the reason why you want to do that is because a lot of times there's a hole at the bottom of the pot and the roots will grow through that hole. Mm-hmm. So it's probably already happened. It happens with our roses. It happened with that apple tree. So you'll have to get underneath there with a lopper or something like that to cut those roots apart. Then tip it on its side, and you're going to need to make sure you just basically do a clean cut on the roots. If you think your pot was here, you tilted it this way, you're working the hole on this side, you're going to cut that clean in order to be able to extract the tree or the plant back out of the pot. So you're going to have to get the pot onto its side in order to ensure that you're going to be able to get the tree out. I don't know how else you would do it if you can't get down, assuming that the roots were aggressive enough, get underneath it to cut those roots off to get the tree out of the pot. So, because you're going to have to be able to do that. So, yeah, turning it on its side and then taking the tree out. One of the things, too, about that, obviously, we talk a little bit about soil for potted trees here. This kind of harkens back to that. A lot of folks will add sand and some of these other crazy things because there's wrong information all over the internet. Regular potting soil is important to hold moisture, and if you're having to do any root pruning, I don't even know if we've done a video on root pruning. We probably should. Maybe we'll do it on our roses. But if you're going to be doing any root pruning, or if you ever have to transplant, you need to be able to get the root ball out. And so if you have soil that can kind of hold on to that a little bit, like a potting soil will, you can do that. And then don't water for a couple of days. Especially this time of year, you can get away with that. Shouldn't be doing this in the middle of summer anyway with an established tree or plant. But water a couple days out and then give it a day or two to still have a lot of moisture, but not too wet for you. So it will kind of hold together. And then, just pulling it out the side. That's what we've done with I don't know that we've ever lost a tree. Excuse me.
We've done it with, putting plants in the ground, trees in the ground from being in a pot for a long time, and then also the root.
Yep.
Pruning with our roses, we do it with those all the time.
Yep. So, and then terracotta, we've gone away from that for pots. We've probably still got a few back there we're just not using anymore. But the only trees that we only, unless it's a nursery pot where it's plastic, we always use concrete, and part of that is its insulation. It's heavier, so it's not those, you can't tip those over. The wind's never going to tip those over, not our winds here. But you can still tip them. Mm-hmm. So
they're heavy.
Yeah.
Are you using fruit fertilizer for figs? If so, what are your NPK ratios? I have an Osborne Prolific. I'm in Bullhead City.
Okay, very good. We have an Osborne Prolific 2, newly planted, in one of our end caps. It's growing like crazy. We planted it was it February? Do you remember, or was it fall? I can't remember if it was fall. I think it might have been fall of last year. So it's been in the ground for a year, and we lopped it off in the middle of winter down to about a foot or so. I want to say the trunk was probably about a foot, wouldn't you say? So we bought it. It was kind of tall, lopped it off to a foot, and it is now about 7 feet tall. And I'm not exaggerating. It's probably about 7 feet tall. It has multiple trunks coming out of that. So there's, I think, 3 or 4 trunks, and every single one of those is about 7 feet tall. So it's grown 7 feet in one season. Now, about 1.5 to 2 feet of it is fall flush. We got all that moisture here this fall, and it gave it another foot or 2 of growth. But still, just in normal season, it got about 5 feet of growth. The reason I say that, when we planted it, we gave it a little bit of fish emulsion and vitamin B, which we do with everything. Really not enough to do anything other than encourage some bacterial growth around the root ball. That's the reason why we do it. There's really not another reason. The B1 is there to help encourage the root growth. Again, there's some talk of whether or not that makes a difference, but we've always used it and we lose almost no trees to transplant shock. So we consistently do that. But have we fertilized that tree since then?
I think we fertilized it in...
Did we do May? I thought we skipped May.
I don't think we did May. I think we did September.
Okay, so the reason why I say that is we fertilized that tree with everything else in February. So it got its first fertilization in February, and that was a very, very, very light sprinkling of chicken manure. We did not fertilize that again until September. So all of that growth basically came with no fertilizer, because it takes about 2 to 3 months for that material to break down and be available for the roots. So it wasn't until the fall flush, really, middle of summer, that chicken manure was available. Well, I guess it was more May or June. So by about June, it had already grown a couple of feet since then. So I want to preface that with the fertilizer is not as critical as all the other things that we talk about when it comes to a fruit tree here. Making sure you're planting it at the right depth. Now, it's not as critical with a fig tree. Make sure that you're mulching them heavily. Fig trees need much more consistent moisture than basically any other deciduous tree that we grow here, but shy of maybe actually, I think it probably is the most water sensitive is not the right word, water sensitive. So it needs more moisture than pretty much the rest of our deciduous trees. It struggles if you don't give it that. Mm-hmm. So understanding that those things are actually more important for you than fertilizing, I just want to make sure you understand that, because the assumption is fertilizer is the most important thing to make it grow. And that's not the case. So just make sure you're doing all those other things, okay? And then when you get to fertilizing, we use chicken manure. We've basically gone almost exclusively to chicken manure at this point. Would you say?
Yeah, well, we did in the September fertilizing. We did chicken manure on everything instead of the pig manure, but we do still have composted pig manure as well. But if you don't have access to that,
which is where I'm headed. So
Yeah.
we use an aged chicken manure here for basically all of our fruit trees at this point, and have had good success with that. If you're going to be using a commercial fertilizer, it doesn't matter whether it's going to be an organic fertilizer or just a basic chemical fertilizer. Using not citrus. Okay, you're in Arizona, you're in Bullhead City, you're going to find citrus fertilizers. Do not use a citrus fertilizer. Those are designed for evergreens. This is not an evergreen tree. Okay, it goes dormant here in the next 30 days. So it has other needs besides nitrogen, okay? But a standard fruit tree fertilizer, usually somewhere in the middle of that NPK range, is fine. It's all you need. So just find any. It doesn't matter which one. Drive on down to Home Depot or Lowe's. Grab the one that is maybe the best price, whatever you want to do. If you want to get an organic one, whatever floats your boat. But get a fruit tree specific fertilizer. There will be several, and utilize that according to the instructions. Now is not the time to do fertilizing. So you want to wait until February, okay? You missed your window. You're not really doing anything for the tree by fertilizing it today. So wait until February and fertilize according to the package instructions in February, okay? February, May, September is all you need, and your tree will be happy, as long as you're doing all those other things. All right? Okay.
That was a lot of information.
I know that was a long answer, but I wanted to make sure that everybody understands. We've been doing some testing with fertilizing here. We haven't shared it yet, but we've been doing some testing with fertilizing here that really makes me wonder just how critical it is, and I don't know that it's as critical as we all think it is. So with some caveats, but that's not today.
So we have with us AZ Fig Farm.
Cool.
Yes, that's
Howdy.
really exciting.
I like that.
Sam in Santan Valley, if you're looking for any certain fig variety, chances are I have it. I have over 500 varieties.
Oh my goodness.
I think
Growing
we have
in the
22.
ground? We got 22. So growing in the ground? That's what let me know.
I guess, yeah.
That's impressive. Now that is some fig dedication right there.
Yeah.
We love our figs here too. So that's cool.
That's really cool.
And where are they at again?
Santan Valley.
Santan. What's the name?
AZ Fig Farm.
Boom. There you go.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. I know there's like the Fig Hunter, and then there's the other fig guy from our Ivy Organic group that's, I think, in California too.
Phil's Figs?
Phil's Figs, yeah. Yeah, so that's cool that we have one in Arizona.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Did you replace the piacottum with Jujube you were talking about in the past?
So the piacottum is still there. It's got a branch that's dying on us, and I think it's got somehow got damage on the trunk. I'm not sure how. But it hasn't given us any more fruit. So I'm not really worried about that tree if we do lose it. We've gotten one piece of fruit on there.
I know.
One. And it flowered pretty heavily this year. No fruit set. So and the flavored grenade, which is its pollinator, overproduced. So
there's so much on
there
that.
were hundreds of fruit on that one. So it had, and they flowered at the same. I know, I paid attention. They flowered at the same time. Bees were happy, and we still didn't get fruit on that piacottum. So I hindsight, I wouldn't have put it in. Which means I don't care if it dies. It's okay if it does. I won't kill it on purpose, but if it does, we're okay. As far as what we would replace it with, it would be a peach tree. So we pretty much decided that when it comes to stone fruit, peaches are our go-to. We have fewer problems with the trees. They just do better. They produce like crazy. Even the varieties that tend to be alternate bearing still produce nice and heavy on their alternate year. So peaches are that is the bomb. It is the way to go for stone fruit here. But we would replace it with a stone fruit on that side of the farm. Now, there are a couple other trees that, again, kind of back to plums. We're not too happy with the plums either. So any of the plum varieties, except for maybe the pluery. right?
We're keeping the blueberry.
Yeah, so...
And probably keep the satlap too.
And the satlap is pretty good when we get fruit. We got 0 fruit on that one too this year. None. So anyways. But we may replace some of those, but we would probably replace them with olives. So, and wanting to get some more olive trees here because I'd like to get some oil production on the farm because of our major change in diet. So it would actually be swapping to that. Now, jujubes, we are replacing trees on the eastern orchard, which is another stone fruit area, but that's where we have our plums and we have our existing jujubes. We have some pear trees. We pulled 2 pear trees. We pulled a Comus and we pulled a Waddell pear that was both struggling severely with blight that we could not seem to eradicate. So we pulled those trees just, I don't know, a month ago? A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
We pulled those trees and ordered a couple of jujubes for those 2 spots. So we'd probably try to keep the jujubes together.
Yeah.
Especially since we're going to eventually do some type of U-pick. That side of the farm will be, all of that, just about that entire eastern orchard is going to be a U-pick at some point in time in the summertime. Because you got apples, you got jujubes, and you have figs. So that's kind of what's on that side of the farm. Couple pears left. But yeah, that's what we would do if the pia cotton winds up going by the wayside. Mm-hmm. The dapple dandy's struggling, and it's never given us really any fruit. The pia cotton, the Santa Rosa just gets gummosis like nobody's business and doesn't give us a good fruit set anyway. So all of those trees were like, you know what? If they kind of fiddle out, we're not trying to kill them, but if they die, we're okay. We'll wind up pulling those and probably putting olives in.
Yeah. We're not going crazy trying to solve the issues on
not
it.
Trying to save them. We're just letting them do what they do.
Yeah.
Anything
Did
else?
you have some other ripe fruit on your Asian pears?
Yes. So we got several dozen fruit off of that. Got a couple in the fridge. So we've been eating those. So we had the 20th Century gave us a couple of fruit. Mm-hmm. Both of those still struggle with blight. So they're not growing all that well. But we did get fruit set on both. The Shinseki was fantastic. Mm-hmm. So we got several dozen pieces of fruit. We're still eating them now. We only got a handful of the 20th Century, and they were very, very small. Mm-hmm. And that tree really is struggling a lot. I imagine those will probably, I don't know if we'll lose those trees. We may. But we'll treat them again this winter to see if we can get that, see if we get the blight knocked back. But I prefer the 20th Century. I think it's a little sweeter.
A little sweeter, yeah.
Than the Shinseki.
Yeah.
So between those 2 varieties, we might need to do a video on those 2 just so folks trying to decide between those 2. I would lean towards the 20th Century. Mm-hmm. So, and I know the 20th Century is 100% self-fruitful. I think the Shinseki is listed that way, but supposedly they both need each other. Well, I'm not so sure that's the case because we've got Shinseki with no 20th Century fruit set last year. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's the case. I think they're both fully self-fruitful. But the Shinseki produces a lot better. Just doesn't seem to be quite the same quality fruit.
Yeah, and we did have a fruit set on the other Waddell tree, mm-hmm. But we had huge winds come through and knocked all of them off the tree. So we didn't get any of those this year.
And we rarely get many to go into the fall anyway. Mm-hmm. So, but we actually got some pretty decent fall fruit. I mean, the jujubes were a wonderful surprise. The Asian pears mm-hmm. were a wonderful surprise. We got a handful of figs. Mm-hmm. So we don't get a whole lot of figs. They're all fruiting now, but for the most part, those don't usually ripen for us here this late. But they're all setting fruit. All of them are setting fruit, it seems like, and still growing like crazy. So, yeah. What else? Any other questions?
No.
Wow, we did good, honey. We did really good. So I think if you can bounce over to our notes. So there was a question that was asked of us many months ago, and we've been doing this show weekly most of this year. And I usually I've kept this question over and over again. I think I want to answer it here real quick while we got a few more minutes left, unless you guys have any other questions. And it was something along the lines of, why don't you guys do permaculture? And I chuckled a little bit, and I thought, okay, well, we do some permaculture, and we're not a permaculture paradise by any means, but I like to pick and choose things that I want to do, that I'm comfortable with, that I know work well, and I can integrate them into what we want our farm to look like and act like. So, we talked a little bit about the farm tour that we had a couple weeks back, and one of the things that we're very cognizant of, we have little kiddos that are running around. It is October, if you guys know, or April, because those 2 months are like perfect months for us weather-wise. Well, when it's perfect weather for us, it's perfect weather for snakes. And we don't want 100 people here and a chance for a bunch of rattlesnakes to be hiding in bushes and all kinds of wonderful things. So there are some limitations on what we're willing to do as far as a food forest is concerned. We won't do that. And so you can, obviously, very easy. We've seen it in action, and it's amazing to see. But it's not what we're trying to accomplish here, because we want to show people aspects of permaculture. We want to show that in a clean environment, right? You like straight lines. I like straight lines. And so, but there are some permaculture techniques that we use. And so I think the biggest thing would be the zone layout. I every time we do a consultation, I always base it on permaculture zoning. We have that conversation. In fact, we just did a consultation a few weeks ago. And the first thing we did was ask if they knew what permaculture was. They really kind of didn't. But I said, well, we don't need to get into that, but I want to use the permaculture zoning process with laying out your property. And so we did the same thing here. We started with, technically there's 5 zones. We start what we call zone 0, which is the home. So we did that first. But then we worked out from the farm. So we used the permaculture zoning process to design the farm. So it's designed on permaculture zoning. How we laid it out is based on permaculture zoning. So why we have certain things in certain places is based on permaculture zoning. So we do function stackings where we have multiple functions that occur with an entity on the farm, right? Whether it be broiler chickens or laying hens or goats or pigs or whatever, we function stack. So they have more than one function here on the farm because we need them to. Return of surplus. So we keep, if it is an organic thing on the farm, for the most part, it remains on the farm. It does not get exported. We bring organic materials in, but then they stay here and get recycled. Okay, so we recycle, upcycle, we do these different things with the organic material here on the farm. We talked a little bit about our fertilizer. One of the reasons we utilize chicken manure fertilizer, we have chickens here. We function stack the chickens. They have there's multiple reasons why they're here, and we utilize their fertilizer for our fruit trees, right? So you guys probably haven't, it's been a while since we've done any swales here. We did one just a few weeks back, but we have swales around every single tree. We have water catchment around all but the pole barn, which we have to come back to. But we have water catchment, and it's directed into swales, specifically growing swales, right? All of that is a permaculture tactical move, okay? So we do all of these things that are permaculture based. So while we're not a permaculture paradise, we don't talk about it all the time. The reality is we use a lot of those principles here on the farm. So, and again, back to our farm is literally based on permaculture zoning, and it was designed in the first 2 years you watched us work through permaculture zones because you watched us put the farm together. So with the exception of the fencing, we had to get the fencing up. The reason we did it because we had to come back into the middle of the farm because we have to start from zone 1 and get zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. The only thing we skipped outside of that were the fruit trees because we needed production on those as soon as possible, but it takes years. So we installed all those, which were technically zone 3 or 4. Those were right up front, but then everything else came back to the middle of the farm. And if you look at a flyover of the farm, you'll see that basically almost everything we do up until the pole barn is within 100 feet from our house. There's a reason for that because we need to be able to control that. And that's how that zoning works. Okay. So I went on a little bit longer to answer that question, but we've had several people ask that from time to time, and that's the answer.
Y'all haven't mentioned the guinea lately. How are the guinea birds doing?
That is fantastic. You want to answer that question?
The guineas are actually doing very well. We started training them to hopefully let them out full time. So we let one bird out each day on its own so it doesn't go far. So if it does venture off a little bit, it'll come back because that's where all the other ones are. And then we'll put it in at night. And then the next day, let another one out. And we don't always know if it's a different one each day, or if that one's been like, because we didn't like band them or anything.
No, but we have white, black, and gray. And we let a different color one out each time. And we had one that really wandered. So the first one wandered quite a bit. So she wandered around quite a bit.
Our dog started chasing it.
Yep, Maverick. So we're training him that's a no-no. I think he's kind of learned that.
Yeah, they haven't chased him since.
No. But we had that one gray one that got out because we had another one out trying to put it back. Had a gray one come out, and it took off to Nathan Terrace. Like, it was gone.
Yeah, it was in the back of the property for a while, and we're like, okay, we'll come back in a while, let it make its way back up to the coop, and then we get a call from our neighbors, and they're like, I think one of your guineas are out, and we're like, yeah.
It was, and guess what?
It came back. You know, we went back there a little later, and it was waiting to be let back in.
Yep.
So...
Yeah, so we'll do a video on the guineas once we make sure that we're not gonna that we're still gonna have them once they all get let out. So we'll see.
So we don't know. The day that we actually let them all out, they could just be gone.
They could just take off. It's the reality of things. But you know, they serve a specific more than one purpose. There's a main purpose that they serve, but they're gonna have multiple jobs here on the farm too. So hopefully we'll.
Okay,
more.
so one more question: Did you used to see less snakes during winters there?
Well, you always see less snakes during winter, yes, but we had one. Got a video up of it on TikTok and here on YouTube of you and Tara, February. So this past in the middle of February, this rattler was out, but we don't see very many. So
this summer, it's the least that I've seen.
Yeah, I think
last summer I think I caught several, half a dozen, and I have not done any this summer.
No, so we haven't seen them, and I don't know if that's a matter of the cats. Could be. It could be. Because the cats are keeping the rodent population down. There's no question about that. The dogs are around. We've been very diligent just talked about keeping, we need to be able to see underneath everything. Yeah. And so we've been really good about being diligent with that. I think just the activity, I'm pretty confident it's that. Cats, probably more than anything.
Yeah, we did have that one red, or... Was it a red one?
Red racer
one. Yeah, we did have that one in the garden area.
There was also that rat snake that was in with the chickens.
The black one, yeah.
The black and white one.
I was thinking like rattlesnakes that I haven't caught any on our property this year.
Yeah, no. So it's been pretty light. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Very good. Okay, very good. So just a couple quick housekeeping note. The holiday season is upon us, and we see it here, especially on YouTube. All of our views go way down. Just you guys are busy. We're all busy doing other things. So when we've had some questions about what's going to happen with the podcast here. So we are going to have, the plan is to have a podcast next week because we are not busy. Well, we're always busy, but we don't have anything going on. The week after that is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. We will be processing turkeys all day long. We have 60 to process and get put aside. It's going to take us all day. So you won't see us then. Then it's Thanksgiving weekend. You're not going to see us here. And then we roll into December, which we take off. And so I don't know whether next week's will be the last one of the year, but it's possible. So with that, I just want to make sure you guys, appreciate you guys being here today. Today was episode 76 of the Desert Farmer Podcast. We do this show on Saturdays at 2 o'clock Arizona time. Hey, you guys are across the rest of the country. You changed your times. We did not last week because we don't like to do that here. So we are still 2 o'clock Arizona, but it changed for everybody outside of Arizona. But 2 o'clock Arizona time on Saturday is the Desert Farmer Podcast. Appreciate you guys being here. Remember, time, most valuable thing that we have here on the planet. It is not all those things that we talk about. It is time. It's a finite resource for all of us. One day it runs out. You guys choose to spend that time with us. We appreciate that. If you guys want to see a topic here on the podcast, you can send those to us any way you might be able to get a hold of us. YouTube, comments, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, our website. You can find us online. You can find Lori's phone number on the internet everywhere. Don't call her in the middle of the night. She won't get it, but you can text her. But yeah, a lot of ways to send in those questions, and you never know. You might see it here on the Desert Farmer Podcast. So until next Saturday at 2 o'clock Arizona time, we just want to wish you guys a very, very successful week of growing, getting ready for the holiday season, and spend at least one more Saturday with us next week, okay? But until then, we want you to remember that if we can farm on the edge of nowhere,
So can you.
yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye.